I'm going to spend 1 year by myself. I'm not going to invite you guys over. I'm not really coming to see you. I'm just going to spend a year by myself with my son and I. And I'm not having any guests. And it didn't go over so well. I still have friends that are mad at me about that. And I said to them, it has nothing to do with you. I got to find a way to get in touch with me again because I felt like I had kind of got lost in some ways. I wasn't connected to myself anymore.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our beautiful space where people from all over the world gather. And this time with us is Melondy Neal. And I love that we finally have a conversation with her. I see her for the first time, but I know her for way longer. We met on a clubhouse, and this woman is an amazing thought leader and a writer who owns her company of Level 7 Training Institute that helps to people. And I will ask her to introduce a little bit more, but here we are speaking again on the topic to authenticity through spirituality. And let's hear the story of Melody. And hi, Melody.
Hi,
Welcome.
how are you? And how do you say your first name? Is it Legita?
No, Ligita.
Say it
Yeah,
again.
Ligita.
Ligita.
Yes.
Ligita. It's pretty.
That's
What's the
why
name
I have
you?
Yeah, that's why I have a second name, because many people from different countries pronounce differently. So Lily is simple. So you can call me Lily if
Okay.
it's easier. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So Melody, I would love to hear from you a little bit, just to introduce to people a little bit about yourself.
When I get asked that question, I think, where do I start? The more you live, the more you add these layers of things. And I think it's hard sometimes for me to say who I am because um, I see different parts. There are layers. There's the beginning, the middle, and where I am now. I originally grew up in a little small town in Arkansas. Arkansas is a little southern part of the United States. The population of my city when I grew up was about 1,000 people. Um, I think it was like 1,100 or something like that. But it was a really, really, really small town where everyone knew everybody. Everyone knew your name. They knew your family. They kind of knew. They didn't know you. They could figure it out really quickly. So, but that little small beginning, I think, is a foundation of who I am, because I was brought up to never think small. Just because we lived in a small town and it wasn't exposed to lots of things, I just had this driving thing inside of me that knew I was going to have to expand myself and go outside of that city. And my mother, her name is Gracie May, and my great grandmother and my grandmother were all living at the same time. I grew up with three women as my guide. And my great grandmother was very spiritual, extremely spiritual lady. And my big mama and my mother were all spiritual people. And so they encouraged me to go, kind of spread my wings. So I went to college at Southern Arkansas University, and then I got a degree in psychology and undergraduate in sociology. And then I left and went into the military. I joined the Air Force to see a little bit more of the world. And when I was in the Air Force, I was a social action specialist, which meant that I was trained to work with people from diverse cultures, learn that culture, understand it, and teach people that came into the Air Force about racism, sexism, um, ageism, all those things that can, cause you to discriminate. That was my job, was training people about that. And so when I graduated, when I got out of the military, I realized that I've always wanted to be a writer because I've written books in my mind. And I used to write all these poetries, and in my mind I was going to be an author. And so when my son was born, I decided, this is it. So I sat down one day with some glue. I used typing paper and a stick of glue, and I made my first mock book, glued it together. And then after I kind of got it glued together, I went to a lady and said, "Could you type this up for me?" So she typed it up just like I had glued it together, my little mock book. And that was my first published book, which was entitled Vanilla Syrup: The Flavors of Life. And so that was my first book. And then when I published my book, people started asking me, like, how do you do this? And so I started Level 7 Publishing Company and started helping other people to publish their work, which was great. We did about, I think, 12 books. It wasn't a big company, but the fun part about it, do you have Books A Million there? You ever heard of Books A Million? You ever heard of that store? Anyway,
No.
there's a store in the US called Books a Million, and that was my first office for my publishing company, because I would go in and take the people that I was working with, and I could go on the shelf and pull books and say, "Do you want a book like this? Do you want like this?" And then I could offer them coffee because they had a coffee shop. So that's where I started my publishing company. I would run it out of this bookstore, and so after I became an author, then I later became Level 7 in Training Institute. Like I said, that's what I led to me, because my son is autistic. My youngest son is now 24. He's autistic, and that just opened my eyes to all the challenges that parents and family members and actually my child faced as a result of being, not only say different, just special, just amazing. Um, all those challenges. And so that really led me to want to help other people to learn about how they can help their children. So,
So this is your institute is all about, right? What
yes, my
exactly it's helping?
well, what we do is with Level 7, we actually train and we do life skills, we do employability skills, and we also train employers on how to not discriminate, how to open their minds and see the potential in someone different, and how that will actually expand their business and help their people, and kind of help people to just grow overall by hiring somebody that doesn't look like you, talk like you, act like you, but is trainable. And so our job is to train them to take on a job skill and then help them to get employed. A lot.
Oh, Melody, I'm so glad hearing this. Because while you were speaking now, I thought to myself, where have you been before in my life? Because that's something that I wish I had in my environment, because so many people were discriminating me, and it was really hard to support myself financially, because I was not wanted in job positions that others got very easily. So I just want to say what you're doing is such a great job. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think that, what you're doing is so amazing, because what I now see is the workforce is still difficult to kind of get into. So a lot more people are actually, I'm encouraging them to have their own business, to use their creativity, to use their talent, their skills to make a living, and not necessarily have to depend on, solely somebody else to kind of give you that offer of that job. Like what you're doing now, you're taking your life into your own hands. I think that's awesome.
Ah, beautiful. So now, as we know, Melody, who she is, how she is, and it was something very new for me as well. I didn't know all the story of yours. So Mm, I would love to ask you, how would you define what spirituality is for you?
um, Spirituality for me is knowing that there's more to a human being than just flesh and blood and external materialistic things. That there is what some people would define as the soul. There is a core part of us, a depth inside of us that has a connection to everything. That, we're connected to the wind, the rain, the sun, that we're all connected to this source within us. And I think it's our journey to really get in touch with that and find out what that is. So that's what I believe. I believe that there's just a spirituality, there's a depth to us. It's not just this one layer. So that's my
Mm,
thoughts on it.
beautiful. And I that's my also perspective on that. I just want to compliment that. Um, that for me, spirituality actually, I didn't plan to share this because I'm planning to do a separate podcast, a separate episode about answering all the same questions to
Okay.
myself. But I just want to say that, yeah, for me, also spirituality is that intangible information that we can't perceive with our physical senses. So yeah, that there is something higher than us, like the ultimate creator, I would say.
It is. It is really. I kind of
Mm,
knew this, and I'm amazed at how I just knew. I would spend a lot of time by myself as a little girl. I would actually, my there are five of us, and I have an older sister and a younger sister and two younger brothers, and they would play together, and I would spend time by myself. I would just sit, play in the flowers, go for walks. I just kind of knew that there was something deeper than I used to feel weird. You know what I mean? Because I just kind of knew there was more. So kind of
yes, it's
isolating.
so much familiar feeling because the same here. I always felt different, not fitting in, not having the sense of belonging because I just couldn't relate to other people because they couldn't understand my inner world. Yeah.
And can I ask you something? Being someone that went through medical struggles and things, don't you think that kind of gave you an insight that other young kids didn't have? Do you think that gave you that?
It definitely did because my physical challenges, health wise, actually put me into the retreat mode, so to say, outside. So it isolated me from the world. So I had no other choice just to be with myself. Otherwise, knowing my astrological design, I'm so stubborn that probably, if not health conditions, I would go out more into the world and I would lose the connection from my soul, from my true self. So, indeed, Melody, that's true that my health condition helped me to stay connected to my spirit.
It's almost like not being tainted. And the reason why I say that, because I see that with my son, Jared, I mean, his greatest, if I was to say he had a disability, to use the word disability, his greatest disability is that I cannot train him to see the world as a bad thing. That's
Ah,
his,
so good.
that's his shortcoming. His shortcoming is that because he has not been exposed, like you were saying, you were not exposed as a young person, because he's not been exposed to all these facets of the world that are not so nice, not so kind. His disability is that he can't, it's hard for him to go into the world because he sees the world through this pure spiritual way.
I-
He doesn't see the
It's
world.
innocence.
Yeah, it's an innocence that we all should have a right to live that way, but we're trained not to be. Does that make sense?
Oh, completely. It does make sense. I feel like I'm hearing my story when it comes to your son.
And that's what I use the
Yeah.
word disability. That's the only time I use the word disability. I always say the only disability my son has is I cannot train him and make him feel like the world is wicked and bad. And because of that,
Yeah.
he has a hard time maneuvering through the day. And that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that it's not easy when you want to believe and see only the good, but you are being then faced with the contrast part of life. It might feel disappointing at times, but yeah, that stubbornness to see still love and beauty. It's amazing. And you
Yes,
know
it
what?
is.
N- Now, when we speak, actually, I'm realizing that before I used to carry a lot of anger towards my parents, especially towards my dad, because of the level of control that was in my childhood used towards me, like extreme control. That's at that time you need to leave, at that time you must come back, you can't go there. I was just not allowed to do things that was normal for my age people to do. And now when I see the higher purpose my dad played was exactly to protect me from that external world.
Yes, yes. It is a protection, and I think that's a parent's um it's a responsibility. You know what I mean? Like I look at my son and I realize that that's my job is to guide him through, and hopefully they get older, of course they go on their own and they do their thing, but when they're at a certain age, it is our responsibility to kind of know them and know that the world is not always kind in some ways.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Then um, I would ask you also, how do you perceive what is authenticity for you?
I wrote something down this morning, and I think I was going to share it on Facebook too, but it's not much. It said that I never aspired to be anything other than myself. I have
Ah,
never, I have never aspired to be anything other than myself. I always wanted to be a better version of Melody, but I've never wanted to be anything other than myself. And I think that was kind of like my authenticity. I didn't know what the word was, but I even though it was a struggle sometimes because I like you said earlier, I didn't fit in, and then I had to realize really quickly that I was never going to fit in, and then I had to realize on another level I didn't want to fit in. You know what I
mm,
mean? I didn't want to fit in. I only aspired to be the best version of myself. I never aspired to be anyone other than me, but I didn't know that growing up. I didn't realize that what was making me different is that I wasn't trying to be like everyone else. I wasn't trying to fit into a cookie cutter. I didn't know how. And it didn't dawn on me that that's what it was. Is that I knew that I was different. And then I knew other people were different. But somehow I knew as a young girl that that was okay. You know what I mean? I knew that
but
was
it
just okay.
but so good that you knew that from early age, because Melody, I came into this peace and acceptance of myself just very recently in my 35th year.
Like I said, I learned like writing it down today. Like I can't say that when I was 15, 16, 17 or younger that I embraced it. You know what I mean? I didn't start embracing until I got older, but I just knew that I was different and I just knew that other people was different, but I couldn't express it and I couldn't explain to them like why it was okay that we didn't have to be alike. And so I did just come into this as I got older. Now I'm able to communicate it. I can say I never aspired to be anything other than myself. But I couldn't have said that earlier. So
Beautiful. And how do you know yourself? Because that's something that many people are struggling with. Like, what is authenticity? Am I authentic or am I not? So, how do you discern whether or not you are authentic?
I've learned, Lily, that your feelings are really real. Like, I feel my way more than I think and talk my way. I sit down and I kind of go with what's happening inside of me. And again, I've learned to be okay with it. I've learned to be okay when I don't feel comfortable with something. When something is not for me, it's just not for me. And I just finally learned that. And that's how I know myself. I know that when Melody goes out to do something and I'm doing it and it's not feeling right, that's not me. I'm not being authentic if I'm forcing myself to be in situations that I'm not comfortable in. Um, I've a couple of years ago, I think it was, well, actually right after the pandemic, um, and everybody was coming out and all happy, and I moved to a new neighborhood, a new community, and I said to my friends, I'm going to spend 1 year by myself. I'm not going to invite you guys over. I'm not really coming to see you. I'm just going to spend a year by myself with my son and and I'm not having any guests. And it didn't go over so well. I still have friends that are mad at me about that. And I said to them, it has nothing to do with you. I got to find a way to get in touch with me again, because I felt like I had kind of got lost in some ways. I wasn't connected to myself anymore. And within that year, I just did what I felt like I wanted to do. I just spent the days writing. I spent my days walking. I don't like to watch television. I didn't watch, just stay quiet. And after a year, I ended up meeting my husband, which was interesting because I didn't want to meet anybody, but I was ready. I was ready because I had spent that year by myself and got really grounded, if you know what I mean. I got really grounded. You have to go inside yourself. And when people say that, go inside yourself, the first thing someone say was, how do you do that? To me, it's just being still. The biggest thing is silence, being silent and sitting with yourself, because the world right now, the worst thing they want you to do is get quiet. If you pay attention, we are being bombarded with noise, media, news, consumerism. You need to have this to be beautiful. You got to have this to feel rich. You got to travel here to be considered, somebody important. So we have all these things coming at us. But the key is to sit quiet with yourself and find out what you really want to do, how you want to show up in this world, not how the world is telling you to show up. That's how your authenticity comes in. How do you want to show up, and not how the world is telling you that you oughta, should, gotta show up. So
Mic drop. Really?
you know, I am enjoying this so much. I think that we're soul sisters.
Yeah,
I do. I do. I really
yeah,
do.
Melody. And I will remind you one of our conversations on a Clubhouse app, that what you just expressed, what authenticity is, I hear it as nature versus nurture, right?
Yes, yeah, it is. And it is. And it's getting back to nature. It's getting back to nature.
By
When I
how
got
we,
married, go ahead.
it's like by how we truly are, rather than by how we are conditioned to be by our family, by society, by religion, by the global humanity. So, yeah, that nature versus nurture is so powerful.
James Baldwin, who is one of my favorite writers, Black writers, said that we must raise our children and then liberate them from that raising. And
Oh,
in other words, you train your children the way you kind of think they need to be, and then you liberate them. You give them the right to take off those layers of stuff that, because it goes back to what we said before. Nurture means that when your children are small, you got to nurture them. You got to protect them. You got to guide them. You got to give them some kind of a world compass, how to look at the world, you know. But then as they mature, you allow them now to experiment and find out how they want to look at the world. But when they're young, I feel like my son, my oldest son is 20. Oh my God. I'm sorry. My youngest son is 24. My oldest son is 30. And he called me last week because he was doing a podcast. And he's like, I got this interview I got to do, and I want you to hear it. So when I listened to it, I was like, wow, I love it. And then he said, "Thanks, Mom, for all those times that you voluntold me that I was going to go out and speak." Because I used to say to him, "Aaron, do you want to go and speak at this event on Saturday?" And he'll go like, "No." And I said, "Well, you got to be there by 10."
Wow.
And so he'd be like, "Oh, what?" And so he says, always voluntold him. I volunteered him and then told him he's going to do it. Like I would say, "You want to be in the steel drum band?" And he'll go like, "No, not really." And I said, "Okay, you got practice at 5." So I did all this stuff to him when he was younger, and I exposed him to lots of things. And now he looks back and goes like, "Wow, I can do a podcast because my mom voluntold." Because I saw his skills, I saw his talent, and so I nurtured it. You know what I mean? I nurtured that
Mm.
talent. And then when he got older, I didn't force him to do any of it. I didn't make him play steel drum. I didn't make him go out and speak. I didn't. Do you know what I mean? I let it go.
Yeah, and definitely I will do some other episode where I will want you as well to speak on about conscious parenting, because that's so important, because the way you raised your kids is far beyond what common parent does in raising their kids, because what is more common than not for parents to project their own needs and dreams on a child rather than to really truly see the potential and talents in child and support that aspect of them. And that's what I myself personally I was missing, that I had to follow the rules of parents rather than feeling seen and supported in what I truly was designed to be. So it's thank you so much, Melanie, that you are such a great mother.
I would love to have that conversation on parenting because I believe that parenting, there's two ways. You parent from either love or fear. And
Yes.
sometimes, a lot of times, parents unfortunately unconsciously parent from a place of fear, and that fear is their own fears, like you said, they project it onto their children without realizing it. So whenever you want to, we can have that conversation.
Super. Okay, so let's move forward then with our topic. Authenticity through spirituality. And now I am really curious to ask you, um, do you see, of course you see, but how would you name the relation between spirituality and authenticity? How does it relate for you, those both?
um, we were talking a minute ago about like there's a bigger picture and there's another layer. So to me, spirituality is knowing one that you were created to be different. You know, I think that's it. Spirituality is like the knowledge that, again, the birds, the trees, the rain, the sunlight, the sand on the beach, the little animals in the forest, they were all made to be who they were. They were just, a squirrel is never going to be a lizard is never going to be a turtle. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
when you start looking at nature and, there's different birds, a seagull is never going to be a dove. When you can accept that part of how the world moves, then you start to see that humans are really no different. A melody is never going to be a lily, and a lily is never going to be a melody. So that's how the authenticity to me is connected to spirituality, is that reality of knowing that we were all made and created to live and be by a higher being, that connected us all, that we're all so connected, but we're all individuals. So that's my answer to that one.
Mm, yeah, beautiful. I can relate to that as well. It's like knowing, because this, at least how I take it, that spirituality is that we spoke that it's that intangible information that we can't perceive with our physical senses. So knowing thyself authentically is not something very tangible. It's something that comes from the spirit, the feeling, as you told, that you just feel whether or not something is right for you or no. And that's how you know more of yourself, by getting in touch with that intangible information. It means getting in touch with spirituality helps us to be more authentic, to find our authenticity. Is it that how you see it?
It is, and it kind of goes back to what you were talking about parenting. Like, I was thinking when you were talking about my son, my first son, when he was born, and I wanted to give him what my mother gave me, and that was my mother allowed us to be who we were. You know what I
Mm,
mean? She allowed us to. She recognized and helped us recognize that each one of us was different, and that she let us be who we were. And to me, that is the greatest gift that you can give a young person, is that even though, like I said, I voluntold my son, I helped my son find different experiences in the world. I also allowed him to show me which one of those resonated with him and which one of those didn't resonate with him. You know, and then I moved accordingly, because that's what
mm,
spirituality is. It's like experiencing the world, but then sitting with yourself long enough to find out what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you. Like, you know what I
oh,
mean? Like, I just knew there were certain things that, like, none of my children like violent movies, for example. They would never sit down and watch a violent movie. Because they
mm,
were young, I wouldn't let them. But then I realized as they got older, that doesn't even resonate with them. You know what I mean? They don't like that feeling of watching a violent shooting or something like that. That doesn't resonate with them at all. Um, so it's like sitting with yourself and finding out what really resonates within your soul, you know,
mhm.
and that's what I think that's what that is about. It's like you gotta, you know what I mean? You just gotta take the time to sit with yourself. And
Yeah,
which means
yeah,
you gotta experience things, right? You gotta, you also, that kind of expands you, right? Because you, like you're saying now, you have this assignment to talk to these different people, but opening that yourself up that way also kind of shows you what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you. But if you close
exactly,
yourself, you can't get that, you know?
exactly. And what sounds in my head now while listening to you, spiritually raised children. Ah, this is the topic. Spiritual. What is
I
it?
like
What
that.
is
I
it?
like that.
Spiritually raised children. Wow.
Which is
Oh,
really, and I would love to have that conversation, because it's a different than being raised within the religious realm or all these controlling things. And, you know, it's about raising spiritual beings, because if we do that, we will change the world.
oh
We
yeah.
will change
Okay.
the world.
We will talk about the next episode later.
Okay, got it.
Uh,
I love you.
then. Um. Okay. So as we know now, as I see you in that way, that you are also a spiritual being, believing in spirituality. Uh, People might, how to say, people might get perception that, okay, if you're a spiritual, it means you're perfect. And I don't want to create that illusion. So I want to ask you, uh, is there something that you would like to improve within your own spirituality?
Um, First of all, I do want to say this, that I think perfection in spirituality is almost the opposite, the polar opposite to me. That you it's one of the things of being a spiritual being to me has been learning that it's impossible to be perfect. Um, this the sooner I began to embrace my imperfections is when I got better. It's almost
Mm.
like, you know, I tell people all the time that I had to fail. I failed so many, I have fallen and came short of so many goals in so many ways for so long that I actually thought that was my mission on earth, is just to fall down and have people go like, dang, she fell down and she got back up. I mean, because I have, I am the one person that has had so many shortcomings, and anybody who knows me knows that, they know that. And what I've learned is that people who don't know me tend to look on the outside and think, oh, she's got it all together and she never makes a mistake and she never makes a flaw. And I never want anyone to walk away with their message, but I always say to people, I never told you that. you know, I,
Exactly.
yeah, that's your perception and you have a right to your perception. But if you sit down and talk to me, I will very clearly tell you, anything you ask me, I'm going to tell you. I don't But what I can say too with spirituality and is imperfection is realizing that you cannot allow anybody to define you. You can't allow anybody to define you by your shortcomings or by your greatest moment. And that's what spirituality and authenticity mean to me. It's like, I know who I am. I know that I have good things, bad. I wouldn't even call them bad, but I have shortcomings and I have areas I need to work on, and I have things that I need to do better. I like to do a lot more meditation. I don't do enough meditation. I want to do yoga. I think that yoga is something that I've done before, but I want to incorporate into my everyday lifestyle because I think that will help me to grow spiritually. Um, but it's not allowing anybody to define you, I think, is the biggest part of spirituality. And
Mm.
accepting the fact that you're not perfect. You're never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, look, and again, look at nature. Look at nature. Nature shows us, it's perfect and then it's imperfect. You know what I mean? There's a storm that comes in and people go like, oh, it's a storm. It tore down 16 buildings and 3 houses. You know what I mean? But it's the same when it rains. If the rain comes in and we love the rain, but we don't like the storm. But they're all nature. They're all good for us, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Uh, so what I heard also from you, what you would like to improve is like more to introduce more consistent dedication in your daily life, right?
Well, like in things like I meditate every day and I chant every day. I practice Buddhism, SGI Buddhism, where we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So I chant every day, and that really helps me to kind of get in that rhythm and connect with that rhythm of life. So I want to do more. I have my sage. I cleanse my house. I do aromatherapy with my candles, and I do all those things. But I still want to improve and add some additional physical things into my spiritual growth, like yoga, and
Mm,
so yeah.
yeah, there's always space to improve for people. Yeah, because we are unlimited, facet, multifaceted. How you call it? Multifaceted.
Faceted. I think it's mostly faceted. Yeah,
Yeah,
we
multifaceted
are.
human beings.
Yes,
So
we
yeah.
are. We are
Okay.
definitely that.
Okay. So I would like to bring you now into the world of imagination. So, Melody, imagine now that you shared that you would like to, all those areas that you would like to improve in regards to spirituality, imagine that you already are doing this every morning or in the evening, whatever time you choose. You meditate, you do yoga, and you do it consistently. How would your life change for the better then? What
Oh,
would be different?
Oh, I think if I did yoga every day, in my imagination, I would just feel more relaxed, comfortable in my own body. I think that I would get better in touch with my physical body. Um, it's a good feeling. Imagine it. I mean, just to sit here and think about it. As soon as I thought about it, I'm like, that would feel really good. And thank you for saying that or doing that because it would
That's
feel very, very.
activating.
Yep, I like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Because that's why I love. Actually, Imagine is my probably third name that one friend told me because I was constantly telling him like, Marek, imagine, and he got impression about Lily that she's an imagined lady. So I have the second name, and that's why I love inviting people into that space. First, because I am in that space very often, like loving to daydream, and this is the first step of manifestation. When we
Mhm.
imagine with our mind's eye, and then we feel, how would that feel if we already have it? That's done. When we imagine, that's done. The question is of time and how, but this is none of our business. Just
Now
as,
that's key.
yeah,
That is a
but
key thing.
we
Go
need to
ahead.
follow that spiritual path, those instincts and feelings that guide us towards what feels good to do, and then somehow we come into our manifestation.
Yes. It's like having a vision board, when you put it out there and you put it down and you picture it. I have a vision board that I made years ago and I had it in my office when I did my publishing company when I had level 7 and I was doing more consulting, so I did a really nice vision board. And when I moved from the office, I didn't take it with me. And I always say that that vision board is coming true. I've seen a lot of things that happen in my life, although I haven't seen it or touched that board in years. I see it coming into fruition. I see things manifesting that I put on that board years ago. So
Nice. I'm really excited about this because I hear many stories how vision board comes true for people. So finally last year I did my own golden vision board that I'm so much looking forward. Okay, I'm not looking forward. I'm just allowing it to be, and when
that
it
is the
comes out,
key. That is the key. The allowing. Oh my goodness. It's like the allowing. Sometimes I have to really make myself be real quiet and go like, okay, things are happening on under the surface. You don't see them always happening, and we can get so impatient and
yeah,
feel like we're off track. So
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, Melody, then now a new question popped up in my awareness. When you mentioned that you would feel better in your body if you implement yoga on daily basis, then I'm curious to see, would that help you maybe to become more conscious about the physical sensations in your body? Or are you already aware about that?
Um, I think there's some awareness, but I just believe that that is an area that I could improve on to become more connected to my body. I just ordered a rebounder, which in my we used to grow up calling little mini trampolines. Little mini
Ah,
trampolines.
yeah.
I have been reading about how that can help you to release trauma in the body. Like when you've been traumatized or any kind of way that trauma builds up in the body, and we know that. So I just started. It's on the way. I just ordered it,
Ah,
and so I'm looking forward to kind of seeing what happens when I start using my rebounder because it talks about it moves all the cells in the body, and when you're bouncing, every cell in your body actually responds. Your lymph nodes release more toxin from your body when you use a bouncer. So, yeah, Lily, I think the key for me right now is trying to find as many ways as possible to connect myself spiritually to my body. You know, I think that,
That
yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's something that is very on the wave now. People become more and more aware about their necessity to connect to the physical body, because um, we as humanity manage to disassociate ourselves from our physical body as the way to escape from problems from the physical world, and we are just only partially living in this reality, because we try to find better feeling when we are not in touch with our body, like those daydreams and the vision boards, so then we don't need to feel what we feel. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, to talk also about the connection to the physical body. And also, uh wait a second, what was that I wanted to say? Maybe it's not meant. If I remember, probably I will drop. But for now, yeah, I see a beautiful wish and intention of yours to stay more connected, to become more connected to the physical body, and it is very possible. And I can see from my personal experience, as I started connecting more and more to my physical body, it helps a lot with authenticity, with becoming even more aware of my true authentic nature, because then I recognize when some energies manifest in my body through
mhm.
different kind of sensations, and then I'm like, okay, is it mine? Like, if I'm alone, or even doesn't matter if I'm alone, somebody's thoughts and feelings about me can manifest in physical sensations in my body. So, and then I used to own all of those thoughts and feelings as my own, and my health as my own. But then I became aware that I am also a channel, open channel, and as more the heart is pure, as more we are channeling the energies, if we don't have energetic boundaries, spiritual boundaries. So it really helps to dissect the information and understand what is happening on the energetic spiritual level. So I just say congrats.
You know, you touched on a couple of things when you were talking. I was thinking about one. I love watching you dance, and I think that dance is one of the best ways to connect with your feelings in your body. I dance around my house all the time, and I took ballroom dance, but I love watching you dance, and I think that that is definitely a way that we learn ourselves spiritually, because physical dancing to me is like life. You know, life is like a dance. You know, you're moving, you're having to change and go, and just kind of, if you can learn to be in that place of dance, because I think when you dance you give up a little bit of control, right? You have to free yourself, you got to free your body. You can't you, when you really dance, you're not thinking about who's watching, you know, what you're doing. You're just allowing your body to kind of move with the music and be moved by the music, which is beautiful. So that's one thing I was thinking about when was hearing you talk. And then the other thing is that I believe that because we've been so bombarded, like we mentioned earlier, with um, social media, stories of wars, violence, hatred, that as a form of protection, we've closed ourselves off from feeling so much
Yeah.
that we don't know how to feel authentically anymore. Like we really have had to kind of protect ourselves from all this stuff that's coming at us all day long, like all day long. And if you don't, um, you either have to isolate yourself from the world, like isolate yourself totally, which again, that kind of takes us away from feeling because we isolate ourselves to try to get away from it. or we see it, like I see like a child that's got shot. America is very violent, by the way. We've had a
Mhm.
lot. We're really having a hard time with gun violence. I can turn the television on right now and see that 10 children or 5 kids were shot over the weekend in different parts of the United States of America. And when you see that, you either feel those emotions, like you said, taking all that emotions, or you shut it off. And I think that we've gotten to be in a place where we shut our feelings off so much that we have to work to reconnect to our own feelings. If that make you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, Melody, and the body keeps the score. Everything that
Yes.
we shed in our body, not outside of it. That's why it's so important to reconnect to our body, because this is the pathway towards the healing, and that's why people resist going towards that path, because it means that that dark can of worms must be open, and it requires to feel again, and to feel with the body and in the body, and that's what people resist to, but that's the only path to go through trauma to on another side of it. So yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it is. It's like that's the only way through it. But we carry it. Like you said, the body keeps score, the body knows. So the body is carrying around all this hurt emotions, and it's manifesting. Believe me, it manifests in our lives in different ways. We may think that we're hiding it, but we're not. I
No,
learned
that
you're not hiding
unconscious
it.
pattern, that's the unconscious pattern that manifests what we don't want, and then I mean, I will not speak about myself because it's not me anymore, but that's why people lose hope and faith, and they don't believe in those vision boards or God or manifestation, because of them seeing that they are not manifesting what they want, but they are getting what they don't want. And that's a point. That's that invisible pattern of trauma that is in the body, that has its own energetic vibration, and it creates. So as more we heal that, as more our vision board comes true.
You know, I can't think of the word. Is it semantic? When I remember seeing once this massage therapist where she would push on different parts of the body, and the person like groans, like make a loud, almost non-human kind of sound as that
Yeah.
energy that's being pent up in the body is coming out. And I found it so fascinating because we do carry around all this hurt and pain and trauma, and if we don't get in touch with ourselves spiritually and physically and emotionally, that's how we stay limited. That's how we stay limited.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not,
Oh, I love that you pointed out limited. That's so on point. Yeah.
yeah, we do limit ourselves.
And you reminded me actually what I forgot to tell. So, when it comes to dancing, and that trampoline that you ordered, right? So,
Right.
also, I want to share a little bit my experience that emotions, at least for women, for men, I still didn't figure this out, but for women, are in the womb stored, everything. And when I went like a few years ago, first time, to pole dancing and acro yoga, it's like was a program of those two at once. I can't even explain you what the magical process was happening with me in the first class. I was crying like baby because we were doing those exercises, stretching and dancing through the womb. And when I started moving that part of my body and just exposing it, it just fountain of emotions erupted from me. So yeah, Nolan, if you have any chance to dance with that area of your body, move that, shake it, baby.
And it makes a difference. There's a really amazing author. Her name is Queen Afua, and she wrote a book entitled Spiritual Woman. And I think that's, oh, I want to get it right. I'm gonna look it up as we're talking and make sure I got it right. But I read this book when I was really young, and one of the things she tells you to do is do an exercise where you really get in touch with the womb and how important the womb is when it comes to women and our healing, because we carry a lot of energy in our womb, and whatever's happened, not even just physical, but emotional,
Mm.
rejection, all these things are carried there. And if we don't take the time to get in touch with it, it does manifest in our lives in different ways. You know what I
And
mean?
also, if all of that heaviness resides in the womb, then guess who will take over that heaviness? The one who lives in the womb.
Yes. Yes, it does. Sacred Woman. The name of the book is Sacred Woman. I want to make sure I get that right, by Queen Afua. And this book is very powerful. I've read it. It's one of those books that I read in my 20s, and I saw it one way because at that stage I was preparing to be a mother. I was, just getting married and really about to take on childbirth. And then now I
Mhm.
look at it and it's like a whole different place than it was then. You know what I mean? So, but it's still talking about womb and healing. And because then before I was childbirth and now I'm in menopause. So it's a different way of looking at that area of your body and learning
Mhm.
to appreciate the different stages and where it is. And yeah, I love that. I think I will definitely look at the. We did Zumba. I love Zumba, and you're right. Just moving that part of the body, our African dance, it's very healing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yes,
beautiful.
yeah.
Okay, if also now the question of imagination. So, Melody, imagine if you could ask any question about spirituality or authenticity, what would that be? If any question could be answered to you, what would you ask?
Um, it's funny because I got a little teary eyed when I thought about it. I think my question would be, how can I train as many people as possible to learn to love themselves? And I know
Mm,
that's not really about me, but it is about me because that's something that I feel like I have a mission and a gift to help people grow. And I have people that I've known for many years that struggle so much with just loving herself, forgiving herself, moving forward. And I always wonder, like, like, I wish I had a wand, like a magic wand. Like, I would ask, how can I spread this message? I think we're doing it now, but how can I spread that message to as many people as possible, that healing is necessary, and what heals us is really learning who we are as spiritual beings, like connecting with that. So that's my
mm,
question, I guess. What can I do to make this message vibrate throughout the world?
mm.
Yep. So
So, Melanie, I have good news for you because now I triggered, I activated your intention. And your question was a form of intention that you want to know the answer. So, because the question was raised, now be sure that you are about to get the answer one way or another sooner or later. So,
well, thank you.
congrats.
Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. You're really good at that, Lily. You always have been since I met you. I mean, if I can just interject that, you challenged me in a lot of ways, to look at things in a different way. It's one of the things I really enjoyed about Clubhouse is that it changed the discourse. You got a chance to meet other people from other parts of the world and realize that we can all afford to be challenged to change the way we see the world, by expanding ourselves. So thank you for always challenging me to, to,
uh,
to
I,
grow and look at things in a different way.
that's what I wrote in one of my posts, that I was a difficult child to my parents because I was challenging them like crazy, and they were not the people who liked to be challenged.
Well, you made
So,
them look at yourselves. So
Yeah,
People don't
yeah,
like
that's
people
for
don't
sure.
like that. I've learned that even when I was doing consulting, is that that's the hardest thing for people to do. They can look at other people. You can tell. I can tell. People can tell you about what this person needs to be doing and what that guy needs to be doing, but it's very difficult sometimes to get people to look at their own life and answer questions like we're doing today, where it's like, okay, what do you really think about that? Most people don't ask themselves those kind of questions. So,
Yeah, yeah, but that's the point. I love doing it, and now I can say I am enjoying.
which I think is wonderful. I love what you're doing. Again, thank you for stepping out.
Thank you for participating also today, and I have a few, like, three questions left, so we are close at the end. Mm, have you, because what I heard so much about you today and in all our other conversations, and that's my impression about you, that you really have a very open mind, and as I introduced you as a thought leader, the way I see you as well, I'm wondering, have you ever had a support with specialized, like, professionals, like coaches, therapists, or was it something very natural that you already born? Is it your authenticity that you discovered, or somebody supported you to come to this point of awareness and wisdom?
um, I answered that question before, and I always tell people, one, I was born. I just really do believe that I was born with a certain disposition about the world, how I looked at the world. I mean, I think that's just me. Like, I was always kind. I always liked people. I used to say all the time, if they asked me what I loved about the world, it would be, people. I've always liked people, whether they like me or not. I've always liked people, and then a lot of times they didn't like me, but I liked them. Um, but I also was trained. I mean, I allowed myself to be trained to think a certain way. Like I said, I have a degree in psychology. When I was in the Air Force, they put us in this thing called a fishbowl, and in the fishbowl, they brought in different people from every part of the world, different ages, different races, different, southern versus northern, just different parts of the United States, and we all came together in this, what they call a fishbowl, and they challenged us to open our mind. They gave us all these exercises where we had to, play games and see how prejudiced we were, and how easily bias can come in if you don't challenge your thinking. And so that was
Mm.
very, very helpful for me in my 20s when I participated in it was DOME, which is Defense Equal Opportunity Management School, and it changed the way I really looked at the world. And then I love therapists. I mean, I tell everyone, if you don't have a therapist, I don't really know. I mean, I think that therapy really helped me. So I have a therapist now. I always have a therapist on, almost on quick dial. I make sure I keep my sessions up with my therapist. And I've done
Mm.
that for years. I mean, in my early 20s and 30s, I started doing therapy, and, not long term all the time, but I'll definitely go and work on things and work toward a better part of knowing who I am. And then, I feel good. And then something else comes up, and I need help working through this. So I really believe that therapy is important. And then, like you said earlier, I was supported. My mother really supported me in being authentic. Even when I didn't want to be, like, I didn't know what that word was. She was always telling us that you're not like anybody else. You're different. You're never going
Mm.
to be like anyone else. And my mother never wanted to be like anyone else. My mother dressed the way she wanted to dress. She wore colors the way she wanted to wear her colors. She had her own way of moving in the world, and she didn't adapt. She just never adapted to what anybody else
Mm.
wanted her to be. And like I said earlier, she never allowed people to define her. She defined herself.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
learning, and I really have embraced that as I gotten older. I really have embraced her vision of you just can't define me. You just can't say, well, last year, you didn't have money and you didn't have a income, and therefore you don't deserve to no, you can't make me define myself by any part of my life. I define me. So
Yeah, beautiful.
yeah, so
So, for me, it's so important to ask this question everybody that I speak to on this podcast is because I want to raise the awareness in society and humanity that it is very important to have that support because many people I see, especially in spiritual community, and I was one of those people as well. Oh, I can do it myself. I don't need
mhm.
anybody's help. But having support on the outside, somebody who holds the space, who is like a soundboard, helping you to hear what is being spoken by yourself through. I mean, what kind of inner world is being spoken, and all of
Mhm.
other support is so crucially important. And we grow faster when we have that support. So I just want people to take that in seriously. And I would say this is something that this investigation into self, in terms of therapy, will always pay off and will always pay back 100 times more. Do you
Yeah, it
agree?
is. Yeah, I agree. And I think that also what you said was a really good point is that you got to find your tribe. Like they say that all the time, you got to find your tribe. Like you got to find a support system. My mentor that I love, in fact, I was crying last night. I miss her so much. She transitioned the end of last year, and she was 87. And I know she's still with me, but I just had my moment last night when I missed a physical part of her. Um, but she always told me that you got to go within yourself. You got to know yourself. You got to go within yourself, and you got to have a tribe. You got to have people around you. And she used to say, the older you get, the closer you have to circle your wagon. And what she meant by that is that, like in the Western years, they'd have wagons, and so they'd go to this little place at night. So they'd put the wagons in a circle, so that if anything came against them at night, they would have the ability. Everybody could see on all sides, but they also were kind of close knit. And so she told me that the older you get, that you have to create a circle of friends. You got to have a circle of people that support you, and that circle actually gets really tight when you get older. In other words, you bring in other people. I love everybody, but there's some people that are just in my immediate tight little circle that support me. And those have to be like-minded people. They got to be spiritual. If you're spiritual, you need spiritual people around you. If you're trying to grow, you need people around you that are trying to grow. If you want to be defined by yourself as an authentic person, you have to have authentic people around you. So when you begin to understand that, you circle your wagon. That wagon is those people that that are there, which is why Clubhouse worked the way it was. I hope they see this. I liked Clubhouse because it allowed you to choose where you wanted to go and choose to. But then we had a circle. You see how it evolved. The people who really resonate with each other are still friends. They're still talking to each other because we resonated in that circle. So we made a little small circle. You, Accra, Sienna, Bernard. You know, JB. I still talk to JB all the time. Those people are still in that circle because we resonate with each other, and they're
Yeah,
supportive. Yeah. So.
beautiful. Yeah, and when I was listening to you, my heart was like, cheerleader screaming like, yes, 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 yes. Because that's something that my biggest lesson of I closed the year of 2023 with a huge spiritual lesson that my friend provided me with was realizing how much important is the fact who I am surrounding myself with, because being such a highly sensitive person, I realized that I was internalizing the thoughts and feelings of other people about me. And that's why I found myself in a completely frustrated space in life when I was like, I know that I bring value. I know that my coaching is helping massively to people because those that I helped like give really great feedback, and life results show how it changed. But I was hitting always the same wall all over again, that I felt not seen, that nobody saw me. And then I was like, why? I know that I'm confident within myself, but it doesn't reflect on the outside in the material. And then I realized that people that I surrounded myself with, they didn't believe in me. They didn't see me because they judged me through their mind. They were supporting me materially, but on emotional level, they never supported me emotionally. And when I got that wake up call, I was like, no, I want my tribe who support me emotionally and who see me, who truly see me because they are able to see me through the heart. And the moment I started cleaning my environment from people who are not authentic because they don't feel what they think, or they don't think what they feel, and they don't express that, then my life started getting better and better. And at the beginning of our conversation behind the scenes, that's what I told you, that I feel that my life finally is getting better because I realize that people that surround ourselves with is crucial. And as your mentor told, that it gets smaller, way smaller.
Yes. Now I want to do the yes, yes, yes. I want to do the cheer for you because yeah, like that, like whatever. Because I see such a difference in you. I really do. And when you were saying that, I remember. In fact, it was only last year that it dawned on me. It's like I've grown a lot in my life, but I would have probably expanded further and faster had I not been trying so hard to hold on to the same people. I was trying to hold people in my life that I should have let go a long time ago. But I've always wanted to try. I was always loyal. I had a sense of loyalty to certain people. And then I had to realize that I had loyalty to people who did not have loyalty to me. And that it was okay for me to put them in a different category and allow them to be themselves. Because it would allow me to be myself. And my mentor, Miss Blackman, rest her soul, I love her so much. She always said this to me, Melondy, people have a right to be who they are. People have a
Exactly.
right to be who they are. And I had a right to allow them to be who they are, but not put myself in that same vicinity or that group. I let them be. I was always trying to grow people when they weren't ready to be grown, what wasn't ready to grow. And that was taking away my energy and my focus on becoming a better version of myself. And that sounds like what you were saying is that you were given a lot of your power and energy, you know, like watering a dead plant, like you were watering and nurturing people in your little group, and they were not reciprocating in any way. They just were taking
So
everything you had.
yeah,
Yes.
so it's natural energetically, that then it's like energetic vampirism, is the energy is being taken away and not refilled. And even though I was trying to refill myself, but it was just too much taking, and I was not fast enough to refill myself. But then I realized that I need somebody to be there for me as well. And oh my God, you are Aries sign, right?
Yes.
So I'm Aries rising, so we have the same story, Melody, the same energetic pattern, and the same spiritual lessons about how emotional attachment to people actually hindered our progress and success.
Yes. Yes. And it was our
Yeah.
emotional attachment. That's what I had to remind myself, that I was attached to these people who were not really attached to me. I was the one that was holding on. They were clearly telling me. I have a dear friend that I'm going to call her today. Her name is Carolyn. And I used to tell her, "Oh, I met this person. They're so nice. They're the greatest person." And she said to me one day, "I can't trust you on that." I was like, "Why?" She said, "Because you think everybody is the greatest friend that you ever met." I mean, honestly, I was just that, I wouldn't say naive, but I was just that accepting of everybody that I felt like I needed to accept them. And also that meant I need to let them in close to me. No, I needed to accept them as they are, but realize that they may have been going in a different direction. And I'm going to quote Miss Blackman one more time because she just taught me so much. But she said, if you meet a brother or sister and they're going east and you're going west, you greet them and let them go about their way. Because they're going to, I mean, you're going in two different directions. But I was like trying to turn people around and have, "Oh, go this way with me." I found a way, I found the path. This spirituality is joy, is happiness. Come travel on the same path I'm on, but they were not ready to travel that path. And they didn't
Yeah,
even,
and yes, exactly. And I don't know how about you, but I still have one situation unresolved, unfinished business, so to say, when somebody else is expecting me to stay in the place where they are, in the place of stagnation and zero change, while I'm changing, evolving, and I feel like my spirit is moving me forward. So this, yeah, another challenge, how to communicate that and how to leave people behind even if they want me to stay.
I've learned that one is my energy. It's like how much energy I give them. And again, it goes back to what Miss Blackman said. People have a right to be who they are. Like I also realized that I was putting myself in their space. They weren't even really trying to come into me. I was the one picking up the phone and going like, "Hey, da da da."
The
So when
same.
I right, so when I just kind of stopped trying to force myself into their space, it kind of like fell away. I used to tell people when I did my consulting that if you take a penny and you place it on the washing machine on the spin cycle, when it's spinning,
Mm-hmm.
that penny eventually is going to bounce off because the vibration is so fast. And so the faster the vibration gets, the more that vibration takes that penny and makes it move away. And I would tell them, spin
Mm.
faster, spin faster, increase your vibration, increase your vibration.
Oh,
And when
yeah,
you increase your
beautiful.
vibration, everything is going to, because unfortunately they're in a different vibration and they can't stay around it. So when you spin faster, when you keep raising your vibration, they kind of fall away. Those people kind of, they don't really want to even be in your presence, honestly. Sad to say, but
Yeah.
just, so I tell myself, spin faster. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
Happy
Just
dance.
yes, keep doing your podcast, keep increasing your podcast time, keep focusing on doing the things that you love to do, be around the people that bring you life and energy. And as you do that, and don't welcome that into your space, like, don't even try to explain to them, because that's another thing I used to do. I used to try to explain to people why I was spinning faster or why we weren't vibing the same way
Mm,
anymore and why I had to leave them. No, I don't have to explain it. I just got to live it.
yeah,
Yeah, just live it.
beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Melody. Yeah, also thank you so much for that cheerful, happy dance of my heart.
Yeah, you're going to think about that later.
Activated.
Let's spin faster.
Yeah, I
Increase
will
your
remember definitely. No.
yes. Yeah.
So, Melanie, the last two questions, very fast and simple. What is your biggest takeaway from this conversation?
Um, my biggest takeaway is that when we embrace being authentic, or even when I think I'm gonna do the other way around. When we embrace our spirituality, when we can embrace that we we're created and that we're not just flesh and blood, that there's another part of ourselves. And we strive to find out the spiritual part of ourselves. It increases our ability to be authentic. That's my takeaway.
Mm,
That the more spiritual, the more you
beautiful.
embrace your spirituality, the greater you will appreciate that you were created to be just who you are, and no one can ever be you. I mean, when you think about that, that doesn't give you a certain amount of confidence. Like there's never going to be another Lily. There's never another Melody. There's not another model out there. You can't replicate it. You can't duplicate it. You're it. And when you realize you're it, you're like, wow.
Mm.
It, it's just that kind of gives you that feeling like, hmm. Even if I don't like every part of myself, I can beat myself up and go like, "Oh, I wish I was taller. I wish I was this. I wish I was that." But when you finally realize that if no one can be you,
Mm.
look how much value you can become, how much valuable you can become when you realize that you're like a gem and there's never going to be another one.
But that's the point, Melody. There always has been a value. We don't need to become a value. We are a value. The
Right.
problem is that people don't see that when they don't see how authentic, how they are by nature, then they don't see their own value. But
And I
value
guess
always exists.
it is always there. And like I said earlier, I've always aspired to be myself, just aspiring to be yourself. Don't aspire to be anyone else or anything else. Just aspire to be the best version of yourself. And another thing is that you have really inspired me with this podcast. Um, I see a lot of growth in you. And this is the first time we physically saw each other eyeball to eyeball and met. But I know some of the struggles that we talked about and some of the areas where you weren't kind of sure of yourself. And I've seen you just through social media. I've seen you growing and I've seen you taking these risks and I see you creating what's not there. Like that's what creativity does. It's like there wasn't a podcast until you decided, okay, I'm going to put my headphones on, I'm going to get my microphone, I'm going to set this up and I'm going to do this every day. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if it's going to bring in this much money. I don't even think about it anymore. All I know
But
is
I
that that's
enjoy.
yes, it's your intention. It's what you enjoy, and because it's what you enjoy, it is going to it'll bring you all the things that you need, in
Yeah,
life. So that's my takeaway. My
beautiful.
takeaway is that you're doing an awesome job.
And
You know,
also that spirituality brings to authenticity.
it does. Spirituality brings authenticity. When you can
Beautiful.
embrace that, it's a powerful thing. So
Yeah.
I thank you.
Melody, Melody, what, actually, I forgot to ask you because it wasn't in my plan, but you just activated my curiosity, and I really want for more people to know. What is your biggest spiritual experience ever?
Oh goodness. I was thinking about this last night. Tomorrow, what's the day? Today's date is the
12.
12th. Tomorrow will be the 13th. Um, on February 13th last year, my fiance at the time went to the hospital just because he's
Oof.
having an asthma attack. And I didn't hear from him for a while. So I was waiting, like, what's going on? So I finally called the hospital and they said to me, he coded twice. He died twice. He was gone the first time for 36 minutes and the second time for 5 minutes. And now he's in ICU and they're putting him through this system where they are going to freeze the body for 24 hours and then they're going to bring the temperature back up in his body and then you'll know if he's brain dead or if he's going to be able to function or not. And that is when I realized that I could look at that situation from a physical point of view and I was just going to cry and lose my mind at the thought of losing somebody I really care about. Or I could realize that everything in my body was spiritual. And everything in my body, I had the ability to manifest a healing. I had the ability to manifest what I believed. And so every day I would go to the hospital and I would dress like I was going to a tea party. And because I felt like if I brought a colorful energy and it would raise the vibration of the room, and I would sit there and I would chant and I would meditate and I would visualize him being healthy and being better. And it took him 5 days and he came back. And that
Wow.
was, and it's coming up tomorrow will be a year. And I was thinking about that last night. I was like, wow, a year, a whole year later, and how things could have changed, how things could have been so different. But for me, I realized that we are greater when we operate from our spiritual point than we are when we operate just from a physical point. Our physical body is so limited, which is why when people transition and they leave the physical body, they're more powerful. I talk to my spirit angels, my spirit guides all the time because they lose that limitation. You know what I mean? But to me, that was
Ye-
the greatest spiritual thing that I went through. And
Oh, I hear that story, Melondy, and that's why I wanted to ask this because I know that more people would be inspired by your story. So thank you for sharing so much.
yes, and I can say too that we were married a year. Well, he got the hospital in March. In February, we got married in March. So,
Wow, wow. It's like the story worth to make a movie about.
well, I remember the doctor saying to me, I said, "We're supposed to get married," and he said, "I'm gonna do everything within my power to get you there." And I was like, and
Oh,
then I started meeting doctors. On this other note, I met a lady, a nurse, and she was spiritual. And she started coming in, and I said something. She said, "What do you see? What do you see happening to him? How do you see it this turning out?" And I told her I saw his good dream. She's like, "Good, visualize that, see that." And I'd never had a nurse come in contact with me that was talking about
wow,
visualizing and spirituality. I was like, "What? This is amazing."
wow.
So yeah, so we connect. We bring things into our life. We bring people into our life. So yeah,
Beautiful.
thank you.
And the last thing for those who are listening to us, for who are listening to this podcast and episode, what would be your best advice for those who are considering to embark on the journey to discover their true authentic self? What would be
Uh-huh.
your best advice?
I hear this all the time, and you probably heard it. Trust the process. Trust the
Mm.
process. Like, once you embark upon it, no one can tell you what is your way. My way, I chant. My way is, taking long walks every day. My way is writing. No one can tell you what your way is. But when you decide that you want to embark upon spirituality, you begin to uncover what resonates with you. But trust the process because it doesn't happen overnight. I don't want people to think that, oh, I got here, I woke up this way. I didn't wake up and just know all these things. I've grown through challenges, through reading lots of books, listening to lots of podcasts, going to workshops, therapy, overcoming challenges, failure, lots and lots and lots of failures, you know. So it's a process. It's not an overnight thing. I hesitate to say this, but next month, in the month, March 24th, I will celebrate my 60 years old.
Oh, Melody, so good. Beautiful
Oh, 60 years
number.
old. I'm so excited, but I'm just like, so yeah, this didn't come with like, I'm in that senior place, which I sometimes don't realize it because I think that spirituality keeps you young. I think when you embrace your spirituality, there is no aging process. You don't age, you just
Exactly, and
evolve
that's
and
the
grow.
recipe.
Yes, that's it. The recipe is like embracing your authenticity and your spirituality because you're not burdened by so much when you really embrace that part of yourself. So
So that's why you look like 40s, huh?
thank you. Yes, it is. You you find a joy. There's a joy in life when you realize that you don't have to control all of life. When you can trust the process and let go, it takes a lot of that stress away from you because you're not trying to control everything. And it's like, there's a saying that every day people get up in the morning and they start pedaling their boat upstream as hard as they can. Then they say, just turn the boat around. When you turn that boat around in your mind, you just can automatically feel the difference. Like, whew, you know, you don't
Yeah,
have to make.
you don't lose the energy and health going against the flow, and you just relax and your body cells relax, and that's why you're not aging that fast.
Yes, and something same thing for you, like your podcast. Like when you could push it and try to make it. I know I've been there, and you've been there, where we tried to make things happen. We even if it was driven by income, I got to make this much money, and how can I make this much money by this time? And none of it ever worked. And then you stop, turn the boat around, and go like, okay, I'm gonna have a podcast. I'm gonna talk to people all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
You
and then
have no
and then
idea.
of the and then later down the line, it turns out to be like the best decision that brought not only happiness but finances as well.
There you go. That's it. It's the process, and you just let it go. But when you take your focus off of what you want it to be and allow it to be, and that's another thing is allowing. I would tell anybody that's on their spiritual journey is to learn to allow more than try to make it. We were part of this hustle culture, as they called it, where everybody was hustling and trying to make it. And now I think we're evolving into understanding the importance of just allowing things
and
to take place.
and that's why spirituality is so powerful, because I don't know if you heard that, but I get advertisements pretty often lately that energy goes before the matter. First is energy, and then it manifests into the matter.
Yes,
And our approach for the last 20 years, astrologically also talking, was opposite, was trying to achieve by force, by taking action, by physical approach, and forgetting the spiritual, the energy work. And that's why I found myself in total rock bottom, in depletion, not not just because I chose the wrong people to surround myself with, but also uh, because that was one of ways how I didn't care about my energy, about my spiritual energy. And when I did that energetic hygiene, now it's better. I don't say that it's perfect, still some things to clean, but I see how now I don't need to force and use more energy to achieve the same results as in the past. Now everything started flowing naturally, just because I took care of my spirituality first. So then the matter can manifest. So I hear
it's
what you say,
true.
Melondy.
I like that. And I see it. I see it. I see that energy moving in you that way. And I think that's awesome. When I look on your Facebook page and I see you drumming or, sitting out playing your guitar or you're in dance class and, all these things all come together. And I think that's what I want people to walk away with is that it's not just one thing. It's like multiple things that we can do and realizing that we have to sit with ourselves and kind of find out what needs to be worked on at that particular time, and work
Mm.
on that. You can't work on all of it at once. Sometimes it's partial,
Oh,
just some of it.
yeah, because that thing can really overwhelm people about, oh my God, how much I need to learn to improve, to heal, and that's why people quit on themselves quite often. But if we just take step by step, little by little, every single day, it's easier. So, oh,
Yes.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Well, Melody, thank you too as well for such a beautiful conversation, and my longest podcaster, my guest.
Yay!
Yeah.
It's gonna be your most viewed too, because our energy is gonna bring you lots and lots and lots of views. So it's gonna
Yes, your energy is fast spinning. So I'm glad.
and yours too. So we're gonna spin faster. Spin faster.
Double fast.
I love
And
it.
we will spread this message into the world. So thank you for your voice, for your wisdom, as always, and see you in other episodes.
All right. Thank you so much.